GSL.
What's up, guys? We're back. It's time for the losers match. So far today, the games have been fantastic. And now we're going to go to seed against MMA.
Yeah, should be a pretty good match, I think. Who do you think's favored here?
You know, I'm not entirely sure. I feel like MMA, but
I think you're right.
Seed he's a tricky one, right? I mean, I think a lot of it will come down to if Seed plays like he normally does, and when he normally plays, he tries to do something sneaky. Mm-hmm. Will it work? And if it works, can he close it out? But MMA is just say more on the micro end and less on the macro end as far as a pro gamer goes. But if MMA is scouting right and getting good reads and controlling well, which he normally does, then I think MMA still should be fine. So I'd give this to MMA maybe like 60-40.
Okay. I can go with that. I'm a little bit surprised by the vetoes. I'm surprised that Seed wanted Foxtrot out of there, but left in Catalina and merry-go-round.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think I'd rather play on a map I've never seen before than Catalina against MMA. He must have a plan for that map. If I was MMA, I'd be very careful there.
Map number 1 is going to be merry-go-round.
Yeah, another kind of hard map for Protoss, but I mean, it's doable. The maps are doable. It's just, I definitely have to lean towards MMA here.
Yeah, I as well. And our game is actually about to load up. Tell your friends to tune in here at GOMTV. We are deep in the round of 32 now. Getting close to the end of this.
That's right. Friday is the last match of the round of 32, so that's pretty awesome.
And it's in fact loaded up now. This will be game number 1 here between Seed and MMA. The loser, I think we're going to have a delay here, actually. Hold up.
He's just waving, who knows?
Yep, something happened.
They paused. They're like, what do you need? He's like, no, this is how I play.
What if like in the last frame, like we're zooming in on him, and then we just see a bunch of snakes fall down from above, and then we have to cuts back into us. We're like, there was a problem in the booth.
You know,
sit tight, guys. We're gonna see what it is.
I think I told this story maybe before on the GSL, but I have to say it again. Once upon a time, I was at a LAN in StarCraft 1 a long time ago. This guy that just like happened to live near the LAN cafe, like an older guy. Like, back then I don't know, it was a long time ago. It was like over 10 years ago, I think, I was playing this LAN. So however old I was back then.
So you were like
21
like 51 or something like that.
I was like 20 or so.
Yeah.
And there's this guy there. I think he must have been 27, 28 or something. He just like had to have lived around there.
Yeah.
He was he entered the tournament, and like all the good guys flew in and stuff, and like anyways, this guy, MMA just reminded me of this. I was watching him play, and he had this single Goliath, which is like
I've heard this. I've heard this. Yeah.
And he was like just massively clicking it with his mouse when like a bunch of Zerglings were after it. And he had one arm behind himself, kind of like this. He was microing like this, and it was like one Goliath.
He also
like 20
came in on a Tron bike. Like this is how he plays his games.
It was really funny.
Well, you know,
I was just like, look, I'm like, you don't know what you signed up for today.
Something that's really interesting, and it might seem strange for a lot of our younger viewers, but RTS games were not, and especially in the West, people didn't even understand the concept of like micro, macro. RTS games, even StarCraft in a lot of parts of the West, were just sort of treated like sci-fi SimCity.
Something like that.
Something like that, like Civilization or something. The concept of micro didn't exist. It was more like
everything was invented after StarCraft 1, kind of.
Yeah, well, StarCraft 1's like a beautiful accident, but
I mean, like,
you would
people
occasionally have these
discovered
lands where people would have StarCraft 1 tournaments in the West, and about half the people would show up having known about Korean pro gaming, having watched replays of VODs. The other half of the people would show up just knowing that this was some game they liked to play like 5 years ago, and yeah, whatever, I'll try to do that. When I played, I just made 16 carriers, and that's how I won, and it was hilarious to see these guys come down who they didn't even know that there were hotkeys. They had no idea. They had no idea that you could, hit Z to make a Zergling.
Yeah, and the hardcore guys show up and just like.
And it's almost embarrassing, right? Because you're in this tournament and you're pitted against, let's say round of 32. You're pitted against this guy who maybe read, or someone from his school or something. He drove out an hour, and he's confused why people are bringing out their own keyboards and stuff. And I mean, you bash this guy in so bad, and you can see he's
doesn't even understand
what happened. Down bottom center.
Dignitas Seed.
The StarCraft franchise has basically done everything for RTS.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh,
in the upper right, in the red.
Total Annihilation.
Acer MMA.
What about Total Annihilation? What about Warcraft?
Well, here's what I would say. I'd actually definitely say Warcraft had a huge...
Warcraft 2 had some.
All right, Team MMA.
Team Peace.
Team Peace. I never learned how to read.
That guy's winning GSL coins left
yeah,
and right, man. But
he's making a killing out here.
Yeah. But, I mean, StarCraft,
Look, here's
all the
I'm going to break it down.
Really complicated concepts were basically figured out here in StarCraft 1.
Well, that's because that was the first RTS game that really had an accessible multiplayer with BattleNet and everything. Because Warcraft 2 was actually quite complex as well, but
pain in the ass.
You had to do LAN or I had to use my grandma's phone line to dial in on a modem, and then my grandma picks up the phone and is going to drop me in my game. That was the beginning of
StarCraft 1 as well. Cable internet wasn't around when StarCraft 1 came out.
Yeah, that's true.
I had to play on the stupid phone line.
I would get grounded because my mom would pick up the phone, Mom! I'm like, Mom! She's like, I have to call work. And I get really salty, then I get grounded, and I'm like, oh. But, so you had the older RTSs. I think Warcraft 1, but then even more so Warcraft 2, I think they were innovators in the way that you could control an RTS. I mean, not all RTSs. In fact, RTSs used to be a popular genre that companies tried to make around the time in between Warcraft 2 to StarCraft, and a little bit after StarCraft Brood War. There were a lot of people trying to cash in on RTS, and
RTSs were actually still being made really plentifully until 2006.
The other big RTS company was Westwood. And actually, they made some great. I think Command & Conquer is really good. I think it's a fantastic series.
The Age of Empires series was pretty good.
Yeah, Age of Empires is another great series.
Oh.
But the macro mechanic in StarCraft, the way that you mine resources, allows for a little bit more ways to it. You could exploit your opponent, and if you're smart, you know how to utilize it.
There won't ever be a better RTS than the StarCraft franchise. These are the best and will always be. StarCraft.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's unfortunate, though. I wish more RTSs were made. I did play Grey Goo, and I haven't beaten the single player for that yet, but I did enjoy it.
I'm definitely going to beat that in the coming weeks. Having fun with it.
And that's a good example of a Westwood RTS. I really like that. They say, you make stuff in a completely different way. You actually spend the minerals. Well, it's not minerals, but let's just say in this case, you spend the resources as the unit builds.
Yeah,
which is really interesting. Which is a classic Command & Conquer style. I don't know, though. It's interesting. I wish there was more of an interest in RTS games in general to try to make them, not to watch them. I think
people are intimidated by how good StarCraft is.
Well, I think it's also the fact that a lot of people, it's hard to wrap your head around what to do when making a good RTS. It's so difficult.
It certainly is. And again, I think a lot of it is people being afraid of StarCraft because how do you get better than this? It's ridiculous. It's like the best game ever, and you're going to make an RTS better? Okay. You arrogant company. Well, anyways, taking a look at this game, kind of like a slow start. It's a CC first against a regular opening from Seed. He scouts it, realizes there's not a whole lot he can do against it. There's not a whole lot you can do really to punish a command center first if you didn't open up with a certain type of build. If you open up with a 1 gas fast expand, not a ton of options. So, just kind of playing normal right now. MMA as well.
Yeah, so far, orthodox game here.
Wow, that's a very fast third.
Yeah.
And he scouts it immediately. And he actually hides that he scouted it.
Yeah, I was going to say, good pullback there by MMA.
Yeah, that definitely could make a difference here. But that is a very, very fast third. I'm interested to see what MMA's game plan will be against this.
Well, I would almost say this should be the dream for MMA.
Yeah, I would
for
say
his
so.
play style.
Yeah.
The fact that he's already spotted what's happening, I think Seed's probably going to lose this. If I had
Well,
to choose
as
right
far as
now
the builds go and like the speed with which he scouted that third base, I expect MMA to be able to win this game.
Yeah.
But, you know, if Seed can hold on to his third, that's a damn quick third. You know, if he holds on to that for a little bit, he's going to have an insane amount of units.
Yeah, but I mean, how is he going to hold on to it? He's taking a Colossus right now. He's got a Stalker and a Sentry. Now, a Medivacs coming out with Stim Marines.
Well, the Starport only just started.
Okay, but he
We're going to have a Colossus
He can
out.
push this pretty hard with Stim, right? And then he has 3 bases, sparse number of army units. The Protoss does. I could just see him being punished for it. Let's see, though. Let's see.
I think MMA is going about this the right way, that he's going up to 5 Raxes instead of a third command. Like, he could have instantly gone for another command center, but then they're going to be about even. But this way, MMA is giving himself, like, a ton of units to work with. And covering all 3 of these bases, luckily for Seed, he's actually this spot and not the other spot. The other spot would be a bit harder to defend because the back of his main would be at the same place that he's attacking the third. Instead, he'd have to like walk around. So the natural's kind of covering the main, which makes it a little bit harder for MMA to attack. If you get my meaning on that.
I catch your drift, yeah.
So that's working for Seed, but I think that MMA has like a really good situation on his hands. I'd be very surprised if he could defend this well enough.
We have more gates coming in here now. Terran is pushing out. The Observer's there to see it all. So Seed does have that going for him. He at least knows his attack's coming. He can get into position. And here are those medevacs I was talking about. With that push, this is going to be pretty tricky here. But, again, it all comes down to execution. We talked about this in the previous game with MMA. If you don't control your army well, or you don't control your drops well, you're just going to lose, no matter what. You're going to lose the medevac. You're going to lose everything in it. You're not going to do any damage.
He does fly right over an observer there, so this is going to be an easy defense against this drop. But the thing is, you defend it up here, you don't have blink, he can just go and drop it at that third base again.
Okay, he needs to pick up, and he picks up every single unit,
and
right immediately goes over to the third, drops down here. And Nexus Cannon is triggered. Nice micro here against these Zealots. And will he continue to stay here? He's going to back up. He's not going to try to target down the Nexus. Staying cautious, picks up again. Now, he's still pulling a big army here a little bit north of the center of the map.
Some good spreading right now by Seed, but this Nexus Cannon will run out. He should have enough energy for a second one. But still, this is a gigantic army being made, and he has to have his army split. He can't leave his main completely undefended, or a big drop kills it. And in fact, he realizes there's an observer in the flight path he originally used to go to the main. Look at how far around he's going with those medevacs to make sure he dodges it.
He's going way around here. And the observer placement is quite good, by the way.
Yeah, it's a very smart observer. And in fact, did he just move it back? He moved it back. I don't think it saw it, though.
I think he has no idea.
Okay, it did see it. Never mind.
It did see it.
Well,
okay, now he didn't target that down quick enough, which means everything is going to get out here.
Well, he's picked off a couple of the medevacs, which is pretty good. But yeah, this is a nice drop going down right now. Very Cure-esque by MMA. Pushing these Whittle mines forward right now.
Oh, and he recalls his army. Is he going to pick up here? Oh, my God, he actually guns down one Colossus. Guns down the second one.
Well.
And does he pick up? Now, he has his army also stimming and attacking here to the third.
Just getting wrecked right now is Seed. Very good play by MMA. Very solid play by MMA. And Seed's kind of out there greedy build. Got scouted right away, and he is so far behind at this point.
Oh, man, Seed's getting bashed this game.
Yeah. It was just really well played by MMA. Very well played.
Oh, my God, and all these probes. Total massacre. All MMA has to do is regroup and macro up. That's all he has to do.
Absolutely.
He's in such a good position. He can basically kill Seed off here in probably the next 5 minutes or so.
Agreed on that. Seed right now actually adding 2 forages and going for Psystorm. So he's definitely going for a much longer game from here. Probably realizing that there is 0% chance he can walk across the map and attack. But how much percent chance is there that he can even just stay alive? It's a tall order.
Well, he's starting to just tear through the remaining forces up here. It's really observer light right now for Protoss. In fact, I think he still has two of his observers out in the middle of the map. So it's actually not observer light. There's 4 observers total, but 2 of them are just floating around out here.
You almost don't even need to watch Terran coming anymore. All you need to do is defend everything perfect, because it doesn't even matter what you see coming. It's not like you can prepare differently. He's getting off of 2 base upgrades and High Templars. Like that, you already know where your money's going. There's no adjusting.
Well, he stims out here again, has to back up from that storm.
Good defense.
Problem is
he's only Marauder composition.
Yeah. Terran is getting closer and closer to that max out point. Actually getting a Ghost Academy here. And that means that he'll essentially be doubling the supply here of Seed.
Yeah, it's
pretty crazy. Yeah,
man. Like, I think I'm okay with the fact that Seed put down the 2 forges just because of how far behind he was. Like, when you get that far behind, you have to get kind of creative about how you want to come back into it. And, like, making a 1 base Templar, 2 base Templar-based Death Ball with some upgrades, God, I don't know. It's just, it's so out there that I'm like, okay, give it a try. Why not? Let's see it.
All right. We have all these Terran, Marines, and Marauders just jumping out here. And this is laying waste here to what remains of Protoss. The front, however, for the Protoss, still defendable.
Yeah, some pretty good defense, I would say, overall by Seed here. And in fact, like, if I could get, like, super nitpicky here, there's actually no reason for MMA to be attacking like this whatsoever. He's got an additional base. If he just sits in an arc outside of the main and, like, takes a 4th, he is taking the 4th, but, like, all these drops, all he's doing is kind of giving Seed a way to come back.
An unnecessarily fancy way to try to end this. That does have too many. Yeah, it's a little bit too risky. Sometimes it's better to actually just sit back and pump out units.
Ahead?
Yeah, get more ahead.
Instead of just try to kill your opponent. I mean, when the Protoss is on 2 base, your drops shouldn't do stuff. And if you're in a position where they kind of can do stuff like he is right now, you're so far ahead that actually just not wasting units is probably more worth your time than trying to kill him right then.
Well, you can see the supplies were a little bit closer than they were before.
Certainly.
Meanwhile, we just have Zealots constantly being warped in over here into the main. Try to slow down the reinforcements for MMA. Seed just hanging on by a thread here. But you know what? It's not bad by Seed. He knows that if MMA misplays, and he's already made a few misplays by being a little bit too aggressive, he can come back in this. It's up to MMA to really shift gears here and just do the next few attacks perfectly and not do any more unnecessary attacks.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue for him, to be honest.
All right.
Oh, wow, that EMP actually missed, and he didn't storm. I think he just assumed it hit, so he didn't try. But anyways, good side storm there. Kind of like a funny army from MMA, but I guess it's just enough anyways. He just got so far ahead. Again, it was a little bit nitpicky to even mention that he shouldn't really be dropping technically, but it didn't really matter. He got so far ahead. Well played by MMA. Like, to get into that position, that was fantastically done.
Now, let's not forget that MMA, in a really sneaky move, scouted that 3rd base and then pulled the SCV away. Now, Seed never knew his 3rd base was spotted. He never had the option to cancel. He never had the option to get in a much more defensive position. And the result was MMA was able to punish him easily. Now, on the other hand, Seed was doing a decent job of holding that in spite of that. But I'm curious to see what happens if Seed doesn't do anything too sneaky, because if he's spotted, if you know what Seed's going to do, you're usually going to win the game. Seed is a guy who would be most likely to lose to hackers.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like there's like a really good general rule I can say. I'm going to think about that for a minute.
All right.
A general rule about why Seed's 3rd base didn't make sense and should never work. I'll give it to you.
I think it's straightforward. Terran can drop a lot in a lot of different places at once. Protoss does not have the mobility on his side.
I mean like a really general rule, like an overarching statement. Just give me 1 minute here, Taste.
Okay.
I'm going to get something pretty fancy.
You'll have your minute, and we'll have our second game. It's loading up now in the map Overgrowth here at the GSL Code S.